be seated. I want them to. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, welcome you all to the 43rd Annual General Meeting of our company. Please note that the non-executive directors, Architect Ayodeji Olorunda, Mr. Yomi Adewusi, Mr. Olayinka Lawal, and the two newly joined directors, Her Majesty Dr. Josephine Dieter-Spith and Joseph B. Daudu, SCN, are joining virtually. Ladies and gentlemen, as you all are aware, the COVID-19 pandemic has made it imperative that certain measures be taken by the government to contain the pandemic in Nigeria. One of such is the restriction of numbers of persons in a gathering. Today we are holding this hybrid meeting with virtual participation by a number of individuals who are duly represented by their proxies at the meeting. Furthermore, we are being watched globally as this annual general meeting is being streamed live. By the combined provisions of sections 251 and 254 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, CAMAC 20, members can attend an annual general meeting in person or by proxy. The Corporate Affairs Commission proactively, together with other regulators, issued guidelines which will enable companies hold general meetings in a restricted environment by proxies, subject to its approval. Consequent thereon, on the 43rd AGM was approved by the CAC to be held by proxy with the following as pre-selected proxies. 1. Mr. Obafunsho Ogunkeye. 2. Mr. Samuel Kolawole. 3. Professor Akachi Ezeigbo. 4. Mrs. Article 55 of the Company's Articles of Association provides that two members of the company present in person or by proxy shall be a quorum. Before the main business of today, may I now call upon the registrars to read to the meeting the proxy report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, distinguished board members, and esteemed shareholders. We confirm that 300 proxies were received in preparation for the meeting, and 14 shareholders have been recorded as present at this meeting. This represents 42.1%, 42.15% of the, represents 42.15% of the issued share capital of the company. Ultimately, we have 181,819,540 units of shares here represented. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Registrar. I now therefore declare that a proper quorum as required by the company's Articles of Association meeting has been formed, and I declare the meeting open. Thank you. In accordance with Article 60 of the company's Articles of Association, a poll may be demanded by A, the chairman, or B, by at least 3 members present in person or by proxy, or C, by any member or members present in person or by proxy and representing not less than 1/10 of the total voting rights of all members having the right to vote at the meeting, or D, by a member or members holding shares in the company conferring a right to vote at the meeting, being shares on which an aggregate sum has been paid up equal to not less than 1/10 of the total sum paid up on all the shares conferring that right. The pre-selected proxies will all have received an electronic voting device tagged to the number and value of proxies held, by which you can exercise your votes by poll. The voting will be electronical and collated for real-time disclosure. I will now, as chairman, proxy and shareholder, make a demand that voting on all matters to be considered at this 43rd annual general meeting, save the election of statutory audit committee members, be by poll. I would like to request that those moving motions, those seconding motions put to the meeting, those making comments or asking questions should speak clearly into the microphone. Before speaking, kindly commence by stating your name. There will be opportunities for questions and comments. I wish to appeal to each speaker to be brief with their questions so as to give others a chance to ask questions. I'll proceed to introduction of directors and company secretary. The names of the directors are contained in the published accounts which have earlier been circulated. Permit me, therefore, to introduce the directors and company secretary present at this time. I will start by introducing Professor Akachi Ezegbo, a non-executive. Folakemi Badimosi, Executive Director of Publishing. So his Prince is Barrister G.A. Adebayo, Executive Director, Finance. And of course, our Managing Director. Mr. Samuel Kolawole. Our Company Secretary, Attendants are the representatives of the external auditors, PKF Professional Services Limited, and the shareholders audit committee representatives. Audit committee representatives, thank you very much. Also seated are the representatives of Greenwich Registrars and Data Solutions. You are welcome, thank you. Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC. Okay. Nigerian Exchange Limited. Thank you very much. And Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC. I now call on the Secretary to read the notice convening the meeting.
Good morning, everyone. Notice of Annual General Meeting. Notice is hereby given that the 43rd Annual General Meeting, AGM, of University Press Plc, the company, will hold at the Conference Room, 3 Crowns Building, Jericho, PMB 5095, Ibadan, on Thursday, 23rd September 2021, at 11 a.m. to transact the following business, which will be proposed as ordinary resolutions. Ordinary business. To lay before the members the audited financial statements for the year ended 31st March 2021, together with the report of the directors, external auditors, and audit committee thereon. 2. To declare a dividend recommended by the board of directors of the company in respect of the financial year ended 31st March 2021. 3. To re-elect non-executive directors who, being eligible, offer themselves up for re-election. A. Mr. Obafunsho Ogukeye, the chairman. B. Professor Akachi Ezego. C. Mr. Olayinka Lawal. Her Royal Majesty Dr. Josephine A. Diete-Spiff and Joseph B. Daudu, SAN. 5. To disclose the remuneration of the managers of the company in line with the provisions of Section 257 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. 6. To authorize the Board of Directors to fix remuneration of the external auditors. 7. To elect shareholders representatives of the Statutory Audit Committee. Special business. 8. To approve directors' remuneration. Other acts. The directors of the company be and are hereby authorized to approve, sign, and or execute other documents as may be necessary to give effect to the above resolutions, including without limitation, complying with the directives of any regulatory authority and all acts carried out, steps taken, and documents executed or to be executed by the directors of the company in connection with the above resolution be and are hereby approved and or ratified as the case may be to give effect to these resolutions, and, where applicable, to file and or register same with the Corporate Affairs Commission. Attendance and voting by proxy. In view of the current COVID-19 pandemic, the directives to minimize social contacts by restricting the number of persons at public gatherings and in accordance with the Corporate Affairs Commission's guidelines on holding of annual general meetings, AGM, of public companies by taking advantage of Section 254 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, CAMA, using proxies. All members are hereby advised that attendance for the meeting shall be by proxy only. A member of the company entitled to attend and vote at the above meeting is entitled to appoint a proxy to attend and vote in his or her place. A proxy need not be a member of the company. Accordingly, members are required to appoint a proxy of their choice from the list of the following individuals proposed as proxies to represent them at the meeting. A. Mr. Obafunsho Ogukeye, the chairman. B. Mr. Kolawole Samuel, managing director. C. Professor Akachi Ezego, non-executive director. D. Mrs. Adebisi Bakari, a minority shareholder. E. Mr. Eric Akinduro, minority shareholder. F. Prince Anthony Omojola, a minority shareholder. A proxy form is enclosed in the annual report. For the instrument of proxy to be valid, it must be completed and duly stamped. For the purposes of this meeting, the company has made arrangements. The duly completed proxy forms, which must be deposited at the office of the registrar, Greenwich Registrars and Data Solutions Limited, 274 Muritala Mohammed Way, Alagomeji, Yaba, Lagos, or by email to info@gtlregistrars.com, not less than 48 hours before the time fixed for the meeting. Notes. Sorry? Taken as read. Okay, thank you. Dated this 23rd day of August 2021 by order of the board. I am Beniti Aboyadeko, Company Secretary.
Thank you very much, the Company Secretary. The Chairman's statement was circulated together with the published reports and financial statements. I therefore would appreciate if it is taken as read. I'm very grateful. Thank you very much. To avoid repetition, comments and observation on the Chairman's statement. Comments will be taken after presentation of the Director's reports, Auditor's report, and reports of the Audit Committee. Before we proceed to the agenda of the day, I would like us to observe a moment of silence for some of our deceased shareholders. Late Mr. Ade Abisoye Shodainde, a shareholder who served at the Audit Committee of University Press Plc in the previous year, and late Sir Shola Aboduni, a shareholder and friend of the company. They passed on in August 2021. May I humbly request that we rise for a moment of silence in their memories, and even those we have not mentioned associated with this company. May their souls rest in perfect peace. You may be seated. You will each have received your copies of the 2020-2021 financial statements of the company, together with the reports of the directors. Item number 1 on the agenda is to lay and adopt the audited financial statements for the year ended 31st March 2021, along with the reports of the directors, audit committee, and auditors thereon. The financial statements and the notes thereon are contained on pages 47 to 80 of our annual reports. The director's reports are on pages 30 to 36 of the annual reports. Subject to your consent, I suggest that we take the reports as read. Taken as read. Thank you very much. The auditor's report. Our auditors, PKF Professional Services Limited, are represented here. The auditors will now read their report to you. The abridged version.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, all. Yeah, I will be taking the abridged version of the independent auditor's report. Independent auditor's report to the shareholders of University Press Plc. Report on the audit of the financial statement. Opinion. We have audited the accompanying financial statement of University Press Plc, the company, which comprise the statement of financial position as at 31st March 2021, the statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, statement of changes in equity, and statement of cash flows for the year then ended, and a summary of significant accounting policies. In our opinion, the accompanying financial statement presents fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of the company as at 31st March 2021 and its financial performance and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with International Financial Reporting Standard, IFRS, and in the manner required by the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 and the Financial Reporting Council of Nigerian Act No. 6, 2011. Basis of opinion. We conducted our audits in accordance with International Standard on Auditing. Our responsibility under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibility for the audit of the financial statement section of our report. We are independent of the company with the International Ethics Standard Board for Accountant Codes of Ethics for Professional Accountants, ISBA code, together with the ethical requirements that are relevant to our audit of financial statement in Nigeria. And we have fulfilled our other ethical responsibility in accordance with these requirements and the ISBA code. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. The independent auditor's report was signed by myself, Benson Adejayan, on behalf of PK Professional Services and was dated 23rd June 2021. Thank you. Report on other legal and regulatory requirements. In accordance with the requirement of 5th schedule of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, we confirm that, in our opinion, proper books of accounts have been kept by the company so far as appears examination books and the company's statement of financial position and statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income are in agreement with the books of accounts. We also confirm that we have obtained all the information and explanation which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purposes of our audit. The company have kept proper books of accounts so far as appear from our examination of those books, and that the statement of financial position and statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income are in agreement with the books of accounts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adejayo. I now call on the chairman of the audit committee, Mr. Temitope Oduni, to present the reports of the committee, which is at page 42.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, distinguished members of the board, and all the shareholders present, I'm here to present the report of the audit committee. In accordance with the provisions of Section 404, Subsection 7 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, we members of the Audit Committee of the University Press Plc, having carried out our statutory functions under the Act, hereby report that A, the accounting and reporting policies of the company are in accordance with the legal requirements and agreed ethical practices. B, the scope and planning of both the external and internal audit programs for the year ended at 1st March 2021 were adequate and reinforced the company's internal control system. C, having reviewed the external auditor's findings and recommendations on management matters, we are satisfied with management responses thereon. Finally, we acknowledge the cooperation and management of and staff in the conduct of these duties. Signed by me and other members of the committee are Mr. Y.A. Adewusi, Mr. Ibiyemi S. Okolawole, Professor Akachi Eseibo, Mr. Shodende Late, and Mr. Chibuke I. Ukuri. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oduni. As copies have been circulated to you in accordance with the provisions of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 and the company's Articles of Association, I hereby move that the financial statements for the year ended 31st March 2021, along with the report of the Directors' Audit Committee and the auditors thereon be submitted to be received and adopted. My colleagues and I will be pleased to answer questions and listen to comments which you may have on the reports and financial statements before we proceed to the next item on the agenda. In doing so, it will help to ensure that we give the right answers. If you could refer to the page of the report and accounts to which your questions or comments relate. You should, yes. Yes, ma'am. Please keep your questions short and concise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I think you can sit down, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, Board of Directors, regulatory authorities here present this morning, my co-shareholders, good morning. My name is Mrs. Bisi Bakari. Mr. Chairman, before I start my comments, I want to use this opportunity to appreciate and thank the board and management of University Press for choosing me to be one of the proxy to represent other shareholders. I really appreciate it. Having said that, I will go straight to page 8, where we have the results at glance. Mr. Chairman, of course, looking at this page, it's not that robust, but we can understand. But despite that, the revenue, profit before tax, and profit after tax declined by 31%, 58%, and 55%, respectively. The board proposed the payment of dividend of 5 kobo. This is highly commendable. We have attended several meetings this year. Even companies that make profit, they will still give excuse to shareholders that they want to plow back all the profits to the business. So we really appreciate the board of University Press for giving us, no matter how small, dividend to us. We appreciate it. Of course, my colleagues, we are all aware that the year under review is a very challenging one throughout the world, not only in Nigeria, throughout the world, especially the publishing sectors, due to shutdown of schools and entire teaching, shutdown on schools and online teaching. So we understand why our result is like that.
On that note, Mr. Chairman, I want to ask a question that COVID-19 pandemic have brought the importance of technology. Sir, as an organization, how are we participating? As an organization, how are we positioning ourselves in the midst of industry competition and introduction of online classes? I would like to know. Having said that, I will go again. I want to ask from the MD that what strategy do we have in place to improve on our quality of our works, research, and ensuring affordability of our books? We'd like to know also. Page 34. Page 34, note 10.3. Mr. Chairman, I noticed that 4 investors held more than 5% of our issue share capital, but there is nowhere in the annual report indicating directors representing the 4 investors. I think in our next annual report, we should include the names of directors representing the investors for good corporate governance. We like to have them. Again, on page 36, where we have Customers Award, I joined our company in congratulating the 5 emerged winners of Booksellers Award for the year 2020/2021. Congratulations to them all. Anyway, on page 48, I will just talk briefly on that. Page 48, where we have trade receivables. We have trade receivables amounted to 101.1 million. In 2020, it was 115.5 million. Though this figure has reduced, but I still want the management to look at it to find a way to further reduce our trade receivables. On that note, I want to talk about our trade payables. Actually, this trade payables is somehow worrisome to me as an investor. I noticed that our trade payables moved from 56.1 million to 426.7 million. Mr. Chairman, this is worrisome, like I said earlier. Trade payables from 56.1 million to 426.7 million. I want the MD to say something on that. Still on the same page of 48, unclaimed dividends. Our unclaimed dividend moved from 149.7 million to 151.3 million. Looking at this, I'm not comfortable with it. Thank God we have a very competent registrar. I think the company secretary needs to work with our registrar to bring the figures down by the time we are coming back for the next AGM. I think we can still further reduce that. And a way of doing this is to publish the list of shareholders that are yet to collect their dividend. Not necessarily on a newspaper, but we can publish it on like an addendum on a plain sheet and make photocopy and staple it and send it to all registered shareholders association secretariat. We can get our shareholders from there. Page 63, revenue, note 7.1. Note page 63, note 7.1, revenue. I noticed that we only indicated the revenue generated from 3 zones. I don't know why. I believe we're supposed to have 4 zones, north, west, south, and east. I don't know why we're having only 3 zones. Furthermore, I will urge our marketing department to buckle up. Our marketing department to buckle up, especially in the area of private schools, like in Abuja, Lagos, and so on. We are not doing enough in that area. So I want the marketing person to look at that. Page 79, statement of value added. on page 79. I also noticed that the retained earnings for company's growth and payment of dividend to shareholders were 11%. I'm not against that, but I believe that we're supposed to separate the two. Let us know how many percent goes for retained earnings for company's growth and that of dividend. If you look at this page, we put the two together, the value added for retained earnings and the dividend to shareholders. Next time, let us separate them. Lastly, on page 83, I want to use this opportunity to really appreciate our company. Looking at this page, you can see that for the past 31 years, our company's University Press Plc has been paying dividend from 1990 to date. This is wonderful. There is no year our company did not pay dividend. I really appreciate it that for the past 31 years, there is no single year that we did not pay dividend. This is highly commendable to the board, management, and staff. Having said that, once again, thank you for the opportunity given to me. I wish every one of us journey back to our various destinations.
Thank you very much. Mr. Akinduro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to behave like a critical Yoruba person. When somebody is coming to visit you in your abode, you give that person all privilege to enjoy himself. So that is why I don't want to speak before the two of them that came from Lagos this morning. But since I've been opportune to speak before them, I don't have any option. Well, I maintain the same protocol being laid down. And firstly, I want to congratulate the MD on his recent investiture as the 10th president of Rotary Club Jericho Metro Ibadan. In fact, I watched something live that day, and I really thank God for his life, because for such position, and he said something. He said that this position that is being appointed to today is not going to be for him alone, both for the ex, for those that are together, and for people that are coming. So and I believe the same thing is operating here. So we really appreciate God for that promotion. And as been rightly said by the earlier speaker, sorry, my name is Eric Akinduro from Ibadan Zone Shareholders Association. We look at this year and we can realize that the result that we are declaring or approving today is not too good. And when you look at what really happened all over the world, we see that university press or publishing house is not immune for what is happening everywhere. So for us to even have this thing that we are sharing today, I really want to commend the board, the management, and the staff. And not only that, looking at the sacrifice being displayed by the staff, because when I check page 31 of this report, page 31, I realize that our staff displayed certain discipline, sacrifice, passion, and commitment. Because I realized that during this COVID period, the significant sacrifice made by our staff through reduced salaries for 5 months. In fact, when I read it, I said kudos to them. So this now led me to go and check, is it only the staff that were affected? So I checked through the emolument of the chairman. I checked through the emolument of the highest paid director. And I realized that we displayed the same discipline and sacrifice. Because looking at the emolument of the director, of the chairman, I realized that it reduced from 2.6 million to 1.9 million. And the highest paid director from 35.8 million to 29.5 million. So this is a sacrifice being displayed by all cadres, right from the chairman. If not because of the sacrifice that you have displayed during this period, we wouldn't have anything to share as dividend. And it made me to realize that it takes discipline. Not that we are smart, but just the passion that we have for shareholders' value. That is why you decided to make it in a way that we can see something we are sharing today. And I believe that when things turn around, all of us will be alive to share good and better news about our emolument and the salaries of the staff. On page 8, I realized that we said 2019, 2020, dividend declared 64.7 million, and the same thing 2020, 2021. I don't know why we have the same thing for the 2 years. And not only that, the dividend declared 2019, 2020, we said 15 kobo. And the same thing 2020, 2021, we said 15 kobo. So I don't know, maybe it's an accounting system or there's a confusion in that area. So we need more clarification. And also, Mr. Chairman, I noticed that something about life is that there's nothing permanent except change. And change is part of the law of life. It is the best time for us to always have the report of the managing director in our annual report. The managing director is the one running the day-to-day activities of a company. And shareholders, even not only shareholders, for the purpose of global best practice, it is always good for the managing director to have input in the annual report so that we can know more. Although you have said something about the activities of the company, but we still want to hear from the man at the helm of affairs of that company to say something for the shareholders so that we could read something about it. So I will appreciate if we can have a change on this, about this. And also look at our, on page 67, note 14. Page 67, note 14. Finance income. Recently, we heard from the CBN about the new policy on our fixed deposit, treasury bill, and bond. And I want to tell us that it is the best time for us to continue to look at the way of investing in another sector. Because when we look at what we realize during the year on our fixed deposit, we have just 2.990 million from 3.2 million, and from treasury bill we have 11.98 million from 22.6 million. This has been telling on what the CBN said, that they want to discourage people investing in bond and fixed deposit. So if this is not going to give us much return at the end of the year, let us look at better way of investing our money so that we can have better and a robust return on our investments. And also, I'm also worried on pages 44 and 73. Pages 44 and 73. The inventories and allowance for obsolete inventory. The carrying amount as at the year end was 1.4 billion. And we have impairment allowance of 24.67 million due to the obsolescence incurred in relation to change of government curriculum, technological changes, passage of time. We can realize that the system is changing every time. And when we have obsolete books, I don't know how we want to do about it. So we need to consider more of how we can embrace e-electronics book. We need to consider that so that some of our customers can always enjoy our apps, our e-books, and through that something will be coming in instead of recording so much high on our obsolete inventory. Not only that, on page 77, number 34, page 77, number 34, we said the impact of COVID on our operations. I read it there that the forest crisis persists the publishing industry on foreign countries. I think this is the best time for us to look inward, Mr. Chairman. We don't have to depend solely on foreign countries. The best ability or the greatest asset of every leader is to see challenges ahead of problems. We are coming gradually, and the way we are going in this country, I wonder how companies that depend on foreign exchange will be able to operate. As of today, dollar is going to almost 600 naira. So I don't know how we want to cope when we rely so much on forex. So I will appreciate it if we can recalibrate our risk regards forex and look inward into our local materials and see how we can exploit more of our local materials and publishers so that we can reduce our risk when it comes to foreign exchange. We have talked about the unclaimed dividend, but I just have an observation on page 85. Page 85 of our unclaimed dividend statement. That statement should be expunged totally from our annual report because dividend warrant is no more in vogue, so there's no point writing in there that if dividend warrant that was not presented by shareholders, we should expunge that probably coming next year so that we don't have such statements in our annual report. And finally, Mr. Chairman, on page 34. On page 34, I have a corporate governance issue when it concerns the share of Oxford University Press. Because when I check the shares of University Press from 2017 to date, this investment has increased by over 11 million. And I continue to imagine that who is behind this? University Press is not in Nigeria. And I don't know how they are operating. Who is buying the shares of Oxford University? They are not in Nigeria, and their shares continue to increase every year. We need to watch this, Mr. Chairman. Probably we have some masquerade behind this, and at the end of the day, they can come and do something funny to us as company. So we need to check it. Who is behind this? How are they getting their dividends? Are they still getting their dividends? Because I don't know how that dividend is being paid. Since dividend is being paid online now, and I've not seen where we have Oxford University Press still in existence and through this investment. So we need to consider this, Mr. Chairman, so that we don't fall into the error of corporate governance and the regulators will come and help us so that we don't continue to pay unnecessary fines at the end of the day. Not only that, at the risk of shareholders, if they are no more there, let them give it to shareholders. A company did this sometimes ago, Logman did it. The shares of the core investor, they distributed it to shareholders. And if they are not giving it to us free, let them sell it to shareholders, Nigerian shareholders. We are ready to buy it. But this thing increasing every year, we need to investigate it and do something about it. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akinduru. Yes, please give the microphone to Baba.
Thank you, Chairman. I salute everybody present and those watching us virtually. Let me start on the lighter note. The Chairman recognized Mr. Adebayo, who has multiple titles. I want to contest that I have more. I am Triple Prince. I am an evangelist. I am a doctor. And the national coordinator of the largest shareholder group in Africa. No, let's stop there. Once again, I'm happy to be here. Last year, I was here briefly because of the demise of our directors. And I thought because of that, the company secretary refused to invite me for the AGM. That I've seen enough of Ibadan. I shouldn't come. But I don't know who changed her heart this year. She had decided to invite me. I hope I'll be on the company record henceforth. My earlier speaker has gone into some areas, but I will not hesitate from appreciating what they have done. But as the Baba of all, I have done the most comprehensive one, and I will not fail to review some of the points noted. I appreciate the points they made, and I want to ascribe to them. If for any reason I repeat anything they've said, it's for empathy. I congratulate the board and management on this 43rd annual general meeting of our company. And I have a review of which, let me give the chairman the benefit of seeing what I am, so that it will be very easy for him and the MD to give quick response. When you talk of revenue, I want to put down references of pages 8, 47, 63 to 64. The revenue decreased by 31.28%, or 646.18 million to 1.42 billion in the year under review, from the previous 2.06 billion in 2020, showing a poor performance compared to prior year decrease. Further review of the account revealed that the sales of printed books declined across the eastern zone, northern and western zone, the three zones. We also noted that the sales of printed books declined for primary, secondary, and tertiary and general reference sections. Are there any constraints for getting books across these regions? Have we carried out customer survey to know why these declines among the primary, secondary, and tertiary general references section? Because of this poor performance, please require further explanation as to how we shall revamp sales going forward across the sales sections. We look at the cost of sales. Reference to pages 47 and 66. This depreciated by 31.22%, or 263.82 million from 845 million in 2020 to 581 million in 2021. And it is further improved compared to prior year reduction of 19.21% of 200 million the previous year. What does the special discount of 3.46 million relate to, as displayed on this page? As require explanation for a better understanding. We further look at the segment reports on pages 64 to 66. While we appreciate the cost control measures put in place as relate to cost of sale, marketing, and distribution expenses, we noted per our review of the segment that the eastern zone recorded highest profitability compared to the other zones, relative to their smaller sales volume but higher profits. Are the highest sales for 2021 coming from this sales zone? That is, are we taking advantage of that noticeable increment? Why are the administrative expenses of 456.67 million not allocated per the zones? Please require explanation on the unallocated administrative cost as for the segment. When we look at the earnings per share on pages 47 and 71, we notice the decrease of 55.09 or 16.24% from 2020 48 kobo in 2020 to 13.24 kobo in the current year under review. As a result of 70 million decrease in profit for the year as recorded. We encourage management to come out with better ways of growing revenue, including digitalization, as we expect better future returns, as earlier spoken about by the other speakers. Looking at pages 7, 8, 23, and 31, we found out what the shareholder love most, that is a dividend. Well, because of what has happened, we commend management for the proposed dividend of 5 kobo per share as recommended by directors. Although this is lower than the previous years of 50 kobo, because this amount to only 21.6 million. But we welcome it, particularly because of others under the circumstances the company has operated on. We commend the board for the meetings which was attended 100%, and of course members of the audit committee who has also represented us. One of the earlier speakers spoke of the customer award, which we also noted. However, those people that we rewarded only constitute 4.30% of the total revenue recorded for the year, which means there's room for just 4.3%. So we want the higher sales. We noted that the higher sales were recorded in Ibadan, especially Southwest, which is an indicative that the marketing section or department, like earlier said, needs to do a lot so that we can, if we can record these sales from this zone, then other zones we can do better by time more results comes from them. When we talk of unclaimed dividends, every Nigerian knows what the current federal government is doing with the dividend. And it behoves on the management to relate to the registrars on how to help the investor claim their rights. So, as earlier suggested, let us collaborate together and see how we can get this. One of the ways, or additional to what has been suggested, is that the registrars should be able to send SMS to all the shareholders having their dividend outstanding. Because if you add the cost of postage, it might be higher. But with the defined SMS, we can get to every shareholder coded in our register, everybody will be informed. You have dividend, come and claim it. You have dividend, come and claim this. I mean, it goes a long way to help us. So, having said that, I want to go to page 67. Under the administrative expenses, there's just one special item I noticed there. That is foreign exchange loss. 17.6 million loss. We didn't experience this the previous year, but the current year, I don't know why. Except we explain. Yes, I don't know why. The exchange rate will continue to swing, but we should have a prior arrangement of how to guard against it, because there are options of how you can finance your sales or purchases. So that's why I say I don't know why. Knowing fully well that we did not especially do away with imported items, they should guide against forward options are there, which the company can take advantage of. Since the bank are taking deposit from you prior to procuring FX for you, you can guide against. You can also have an arrangement with your banks, because the banks are not paying returns on any money designated for import. Am I right? So you can arrange with them so that you mitigate against this. Finally, finally, page 79. Just a moment, madam. After me. Yes. Page 79, which is value added page, which one of the earlier speakers has said something about. I noticed that within the 100% value added, the application of 58% was given to the staff to compensate them for their services. This even because they reduced their salary because of the pandemic, where the staff were not paid at certain time. So if it's been 100%, you find out that what will pay to them will be the range of 70 to 80. And that just summarizes the performance of the company for the year. That the remaining one would not have been sufficient for the operations of the company. And what does that one suggest? That we should do more. We should do more to earn more money so that we'll be able to service the share capital. Thank you very much. God bless us. I don't want to repeat what they have said. And I will say, thank you for allowing me to represent my other stakeholders. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I will ask the MD to respond to areas he has been asked to explain, and the Executive Director of Finance will also take some of the questions and comments.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representatives of shareholders and other stakeholders present here. Quite a number of issues were raised, and as the chairman said, I will respond to some of those issues and also call on the Executive Director of Finance to respond to some of those issues before the chairman rounds up. We want to thank those who have spoken and commended the board and management for the performance of the company in the difficult year of the pandemic. Mrs. Bakari specifically requested to know what we're doing or what our plans are the economy of Nigeria and the business environment. And I can assure you that, of course, we are doing our research. We are working on some of the things we have been working on concerning e-books, e-learning before the pandemic happened. And very soon we'll begin to see results in these areas. Apart from the deployment of technology, because deployment of technology is not just in the area of producing the product itself, the e-books, but also in terms of how we do business. We've learned from the pandemic period. We are already making efforts to see and ensure that members of our staff and management can work remotely. The fact that we are holding meetings virtually and all that is an indication that we are still in operation. Even during the height of the pandemic, we still found a way to operate. But in terms of our operations, in terms of the product itself, we are really working on it. Last year, like we said, during the pandemic, we produced videos, revision videos for students. There are so many other things that we're working on that we can't begin to disclose at an annual general meeting like this for obvious reasons. But I can assure you we are doing it. Another specific one that I will respond to is how we are managing our operations to ensure that our books are not only cheaper but also available. It's been a serious challenge, especially the availability of our products. And I will tie that to the issue of printing abroad and the high cost of printing, high cost of inputs that we mentioned. We require paper. There is no place in Nigeria where paper is produced. So even the inks and many of the inputs that we use locally, we still have to bring from outside the country. We are not the ones that will go and bring them in, but the printers that we use here will require those inputs to be able to operate. So one way or the other, it will still affect us. But I can assure you that we are doing the very best that we can. In terms of our products, we have different products for different segments in the economy. We have our premium products, and we also have products that are cheaper, that those who can't afford the premium products can be able to afford. So in some subject areas, we have more than one product. So we are doing the best that we can so that we can reach different segments of the market. Trade receivables, trade payables. The Executive Director of Finance, I have answers to that, but I'll allow him to also respond to that. When we say our trade payables are higher, during the period of the pandemic, which this account covers to a large extent, we find out that you are not able to even do any transaction at all. So it's not as if we are owing, we cannot pay. But when you cannot get the foreign exchange to be able to pay your customers, then the money lies there as payable. But it doesn't, the most important thing is, if they ask for the money today, do you have enough to pay? I think that is the issue, but you have more information on that from the Executive Director. Unclaimed dividends, we should work to bring down the figure. We say this to cover all the questions that have been asked on unclaimed dividends and the recommendations that have been made. I think the most important part of it is the suggestion that the list of unclaimed dividends that we have, we reach out to shareholders associations and let them have it so that they can contact their members. That we can assure you we are going to do. The list is on our website. We always put it up there and try to update it from time to time. But the idea of printing and circulating to all, giving to shareholders associations is a very good one, and we'll explore that and make sure that it is done. Separation of value add, the ED Finance will respond to that. Dividend YSIM, MD's report. I assure you that next year you will have MD's report in the financial statements and the reports that we send to you. Obsolescence, yes, from time to time this will happen, but we are trying to ensure that we manage our inventory in such a way that we don't have a high level of this in our inventory as we go on. Yes, Mr. Rikakiduro, you talked about why that we shouldn't rely on foreign inputs and we should look inwards, and that was the explanation I gave earlier. Even when we look inwards and decide to print in Nigeria, the printers in Nigeria will still need paper from abroad, they will still need inks from abroad and all those. So that is the challenge that we have. An important part is the issue of Oxford University Press Plc. The increase in their shareholding is nothing new. It's always been there because at a point in time they gave a standing instruction that their dividends, because when they convert it, it doesn't make much sense. And I think we have said it at another general meeting before. They say every of their dividend, we should use it to buy shares for them. When you have rights issues, whatever they have, we use to buy shares for them. That is the instruction they have given. So it is not anybody on the ground that is doing that. Of course, you mentioned the idea of selling it to Nigerians. Probably we'll pass on that message if you have a way of passing it across to them if they are interested. But if they want to sell, I'm sure they would have sold by now. There are a lot of other things. We are in partnership with them. They left, but there's an agreement. If you go to UK today, Oxford University Press UK is still in existence. It's not a dead organization that you will just take their shareholding and start distributing to Nigerians. If you remember, when Longman was Longman, there was a time that Longman UK came back to Nigeria. You never know when OUP will say they also want to come back to Nigeria. If they come and you say you have sold their shares to Nigerians, that would be an issue. So we are still in touch with them. That is the instruction they have given. And if you look at their share, the dividend, if you calculate the dividends they are entitled to, and you see the movement of their shares vis-a-vis the price of shares, you will see that it correlates. So that's the position with Oxford University Press UK. The late chairman, Dr. Lokonare, our former chairman, has explained it a number of times. They even stopped sending directors to our board at one time because they said it's expensive for us to be bringing them in from abroad. But they still monitor what we are doing. That they don't think it is in the interest of the company. Every time we have board meeting, we are inviting their representatives from abroad to come and attend meetings and spend so much money. How much are we making? And by the time you convert the dividend, it means not so much to them. So that's that with OUP issue. I think with that, I've answered quite a number of questions. Forex loss, I think that also has been explained. When all of us know what has happened in the last 1 year in Nigeria. When we printed books, it was at a particular price. When we had to pay, it was at another level entirely. But we've learned from that, and going forward, we are carefully watching and guarding against that kind of exposure going forward. For Triple Prince and National President Omojola, those are the only ones I can remember out of the many titles. The revenue, like you said, I think that has been answered. We operated during the period of pandemic. Throughout this period, it was a difficult and challenging period. Our sector was about the most affected because schools were closed even before offices were closed. For over 5 months or 6 months, we couldn't have access to our customers, and that really told on our performance. So that is the explanation for that, for our performance. For the decline, all the decreases you saw in the performance, by our standard, it's a poor performance, but when you look at the economy under which we operated, even like somebody was saying, it took the salaries of staff, management, and the emolument of directors for us to even be able to afford to say we are paying 5 kobo dividend. If everyone earned what they were entitled to, there will even be no dividend to pay anyone. So it was a challenging period. And if you look at even the challenges to us, the challenge to us to improve on our performance, if you look at the first quarter reports and others that you have been coming up with, we are gradually picking up. And we believe that the future is bright, the schools are back, and we are working on improving our performance in the course of the year. Special discounts, when you have customers who are buying in large quantities, you have to give them higher discount to encourage them. There's nothing else to that. That's the explanation. You have a few people who are buying. If you have sold so much, made so much money, you will have people that you give concession to and give higher discount. The same thing will apply to the question on the customers who got awards. When you are looking at percentage, it looks small. But when you look at performance of those individual customers, you will know that it is something. What that also tells us is that our customer base is wide. So the fact that you don't have one person, a customer who has purchased from you 100 million or 200 million in 1 year, if you want to reward some segments of customers like that, like schools, you have some of them in that high category. But we are talking about booksellers. Those are the ones we are encouraging. Some schools even bought higher than some of these books, but we are encouraging booksellers and agents so that we develop them. That's why you have such insignificant percentage. Earning per shares, dividend, and all the other ones, I think have been taken care of by the fact that the pandemic affected our performance. To reach, unclaimed dividend, I've already talked about that. Local printers, yes, I've talked about that also. There are so many other suggestions that were made to us. I can assure you that we have taken care of those. We have taken note of those things, and we will work on improving on them. So I'll let the Executive Director of Finance respond to some of the specific issues as directed by the chairman before the chairman rounds up.
Thank you, Chairman. MD. Shareholders, I think with what the MD had said, I have very little to say again. I will only respond to a few items because of the need to do that. One is on the trade receivables, trade payables. I think on the trade receivables, we all understand what actually happened in the country. Of course, there was a reduction, but we appreciate the fact that the academic calendar of this 2020-2021 academic year in September, some in January. So that affected the sales, and that ordinarily also affected when the payments or the receipts, the money was received by the company. So, but in actual sense, we are watching that, and to a reasonable extent, that's not a threat to the company. On the trade payables, really the trade payables, MD had said something about that, because I must say that we all know that we have illiquidity in the forex market last year, even up to this moment. You wanted to pay money, the forex is not there. We will have paid some of this last year, and that accounted for the difference between the trade payables in the previous year, that is in 2019-2020, then 2020-2021. Because in 2019-2020, we were able to pay all our creditors at the right time. But 2020-2021, we wanted to pay many of these printers, many of these printers abroad, but unfortunately, the forex was not there. So if the forex was not there, we made so much effort, believing that we were able to pay at the very high price, but you couldn't get the forex. And that, to a reasonable extent, even in the, we are still paying for the 2020 purchases, even in 2021. There can still be more forex loss because of our inability to pay at that time. That is beyond our control. But to a reasonable extent, like MD said, we are trying as much as possible to manage that, to minimize the effect of that. But MD had directly captured it in the sense that it is the business, in the environment where we operate, we rely mostly on inputs from abroad. It's either you, and what you don't pay for yourself, we have to pay for it in terms of the increased cost of production or the increased or value of the inventory itself. Because you are not paying for it, somebody else will be paying for it. So, but we are trying as much as possible to take every option available in order to minimize that. The unallocated administrative expenses, that's simply the head office expenses, covering all other service departments, such as finance, publishing, human resources. So those one, that because what we do internally is to allocate to them in order as part of measuring their, but if we have to allocate this to each of them, you discover that many, we have only considered the direct expenses in that segment report. The unallocated is the head office expenses for those service departments, and that is the right thing that we have done. MD had said something about the revenue, which is clear. We can only, it's not only the pandemic affecting schools alone. We all agree with me that even the disposable income of individuals buying the books themselves, where is it? Many people relied on, can government give us discount? Those who couldn't get money to feed themselves, can they really buy any books? So we are doing a lot. Even in terms of, like Madam said, e-books and the likes. But you can imagine of the environment. The environment, you have so many innovations, but market out there is not encouraging that innovation because of how many people are buying some of these. But the company will still continue to do so much in that respect, because that will also reduce inventory. If we are selling e-books, then that will reduce our inventory in-house. But today, physical books are still the basic things that many schools are buying. So the earning per shares, MD has said something about that, even the customers award. I think the only other thing I have to just add to what MD said about special discount is that this is your discount given to those that facilitated sales at reduced discount. When I say reduced discount, instead of discount getting, let's say, 10%, but they have been able to assist to sell to customers to buy at 5%. And for that purpose, they are also getting 1%. That's just, so invariably, if we have sold to the customer at the right discount, it will not go into that account, it will go into the cost of sales itself. So, and you will see that the amount is even insignificant. So that's what that reflects. And I think with that, I want to thank you again for your contributions. MD has said something about unclaimed dividend. Thank you very much, my chairman.
Thank you very much. Executive Director of Finance and the MD. I think in order not to repeat what they had said, I will only take one or two issues that are yet to be responded to. Mrs. Bakari talked about why we have 3 zones and not 4 zones. Even the Nigeria is 6 geopolitical zones. We can't stretch ourselves to 6 zones. That will be adding to our overheads. And these 3 zones had been the structure of the business since so many decades, east, west, and north. So bear with us. MD said it's just a style of reporting, or the manner in which we are reporting. We are in all parts of the country. And so for just convenience or just to report, that is why there's nowhere in the country where you don't find our books. And that's a statement of fact. I want to thank Mr. Akinduru for appreciating the sacrifice the staff, management, and the directors, the parts they played in ensuring that we have the result that we have today. We believe in the shareholder, in the interest of the shareholder, and to have the company continue to be in existence. We know that for many, even around us, so many are falling on hard times. We don't have to go into specifics, but this is the truth. And for this to be an ongoing business, the sacrifice has to be made. But we thank you for appreciating the fact that this is noticed and commended. On book obsolescence, you find that even for us, we have a projection, we have a plan. Government comes and changes the curriculum. after we have printed, we have no control on what government says they want to be the content of the book. So there are some cases like this, but the other points are noted and it will be addressed. On board representation, as observed by Mrs. Bakari, thank you very much for the observation. The appointments that had just been made are for independent directors. This is a provision of CAMA 2020. Even the minimum required by CAMA, we are yet to meet it. 3, we must be seen as complying, and even if the regulatory authorities should come and say, then we can't all of a sudden deplete the board and bring in new people, because there should be some process through which the new directors will get accustomed to the way we run our business. So we are not overlooking any majority shareholder. As a matter of fact, we've been relating with our Resources Limited, and they know that we have at some point in the future, nearest future, that can be that will be considered. Representation on the board, even if it is not strictly by shareholding, we know it is just in the interest and the good health of the club, of the business, of the company, to have some consideration in that respect. So we thank you for bringing that up. We are not also oblivious of that fact, and as we manage all these issues to ensure that there's stability on the board. Stability is important, so that we can move from strength to strength. I don't know if I thank you very much. I think we have covered all the points. Thank you very much. Okay. Triple Prince. Okay, you are nodding in agreement. You are not in court. There have been no further comments, and the audited reports and consolidated financial statements for the year ended 31st March 2021 haven't been received, and members haven't laid the financial statements and the reports of the directors, auditors, and the audit committee thereon submitted be received and adopted. Okay. It's to lay. All right. It has been laid. Okay. You laid it. Mm-hmm. So we go to item number 2. I hereby move that the dividend of 5 kobo per share be and is hereby approved for payment to shareholders whose names appear on their register of the shareholders at the close of business on Tuesday, 31st August 2021, in respect of the year ended 31st March 2021. Will the shareholder please rise and second this motion? Mrs. B.C. Bakari. Thank you. May I now call on members to vote on the resolution by poll, I will hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to run us through the voting instructions or polling instructions just before we commence that. So an electronic device was issued to all those who are eligible to vote, and these constitute the shareholders present and all shareholders present and the nominated proxies by the shareholders who are not here. The device has been activated and is ready for use. It's very easy. A resolution will be announced and voting for the resolution will commence thereon. Each session will last 30 seconds. So please do note that when I announce the resolution, the timer will come up on the board. You don't need to keep your finger on the button for long. Once you press and see the green indicator, that indicates that your vote has gone through, and you may then drop your device down. On the voting pad, 1 represents yes, that's if you are voting for the resolution, 2 represents against, if you are voting against, and 3 represents abstain, if you are abstaining from the resolution. Like I said earlier, the session will commence and end in 30 seconds, and it will be indicated by the timer on the board. The voting results will be displayed immediately each session ends, and then the voting will be indicated in both percentage and the shareholding, so both will be announced. Thank you. Okay, we'll take the resolution now. Okay. Can we have the timer up? So are we ready to vote? Okay. You may now vote, please. Please do remember, 1 is if you are voting for, 2 against, and 3 if you are abstaining. Once the indicator comes up green, you have successfully voted. You need to keep it off. Okay, the session has ended. On the resolution to declare a dividend, we have 100% of the votes in favor of the resolution, represented in shareholding by 180,524,000 units of shares. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item number 3 on the agenda is the re-election of retiring non-executive directors. In accordance with Section 285 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, Mr. Obafunsho Ogunkeye, Professor Akachi Ezegbo, and Mr. Olayinka Lawal, due to retire this year and being eligible for re-election, seek to be re-elected as non-executive directors of the company. Since I am the first director to be considered for re-election, I would temporarily step down as the chairman of this meeting. I will call on Professor Akachi Ezegbo to assume chairmanship of the meeting in order to conduct the election. But she doesn't.
I hereby move a motion that Mr. Obafunso Ogunkeye be re-elected as a non-executive director. Would a shareholder please rise and second this motion?
Thank you, Madam Chairman Interim. I rise to second that motion. Eric Akinduro is the name.
May I now call on members to vote on the resolution by poll. I will hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Shall we have the slide up, please? Okay. The timer. Okay, you may now vote, please, to re-elect Mr. Obafunso Ogunkeye as a director. Okay, the session has ended. On the resolution to re-elect Mr. Obafunso Ogunkeye as a director, we have 100% of the votes in favor of the resolution, represented in shareholding by 180,711,000 units of shares. Thank you.
Thank you, Registrar. I declare the motion carried. I declare now that Mr. Obafunso Ogunkeye has been re-elected, I call on him to take over chairmanship of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. And thank you, shareholders. I hereby move a motion that Professor Akachi Ezegbo be re-elected as a non-executive director. Will the shareholder please rise and second this motion? Triple Prince.
I hereby move the motion. Am I supporting you?
Supporting.
Okay. I hereby support the re-election of Professor Akachi Ezegbo as a non-executive director. The name is Prince Dr. Anthony Omojola.
Thank you very much, sir. Now call on members to vote on the resolution by poll. I will hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay. And we have the timer up. Okay, you may now vote, please. Okay, the session has ended. On the resolution to re-elect Professor Akachi Ezegbo as a director, we have 100% of the votes in favor of the resolution. This is represented in shareholding by 180,711,000 units of shares. Thank you.
Thank you, registrars. I declare the motion carried unanimously. Congratulations, ma'am. I hereby move a motion that Mr. Olayinka Lawal be re-elected as a non-executive director. I would like a shareholder to please rise and second this motion.
Thank you. Mrs. Bakari Adebisi, I second the motion.
I now call on members to vote on the resolution by poll. I will hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, you may now vote. Okay, the session has ended. On the resolution to re-elect Mr. Olayinka Lawal as a director, we have 100% of the votes in favor of the resolution, represented in shareholding by 179,834,000 units of shares. We have none abstaining and we have none against the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, registrars. I declare the motion carried unanimously. Item number 4. To ratify the appointment of 2 newly appointed independent non-executive directors. I hereby move the motion that Her Majesty Dr. Josephine A. Dietes-Piff, an independent non-executive director who was appointed in the course of the year, be and is hereby appointed as an independent non-executive director of the company. Would a shareholder please rise and second this motion? Triple Prince.
I'm fully aware that royalty runs in my blood. That's why I want to her appointment. So I do, Prince Dr. Anthony Omojala.
Thank you very much. We know you are the only other person qualified to. I now call on members to vote on the resolution by poll. I will hand over to the registrar to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can happen, okay? Okay. You may now vote, please. The session has ended. On the resolution, okay, on the resolution to ratify the appointment of Her Royal Majesty Dr. Josephine A. Dietes-Piff as an independent non-executive director, we have 100% of the votes in favor of the resolution, represented in shareholding by 179,327,000 units of shares. We have none abstaining and we have none against the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, registrars. I declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you. I hereby move the motion that Joseph B. Daudu, SCN, an independent non-executive director who was appointed in the course of the year, be and is hereby appointed as an independent non-executive director of the company. Would a shareholder second this motion?
My name is Eric Akinduro. I rise to second that motion.
Thank you, sir. I now call on members to vote on the resolution by poll. I will hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You may now vote, please. Session has ended. On the resolution to ratify the appointment of Joseph B. Daudu, SAN, as an independent non-executive director, we have 100% of the votes in favor of the resolution, represented in shareholding by 180,592,000 units of shares. We have no votes against and none abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you, registrars. I declare the motion carried unanimously. Item number 5. To disclose the remuneration of the managers of the company. Item number 5 on the agenda is, quote, to disclose the remuneration of the managers of the company under sections 257 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. The compensations of managers of the company shall be disclosed to members of the company at the annual general meeting. Therefore, managers' compensation for the year ended 31st March 2021 be hereby disclosed as 39,283,000 naira only. The information is listed on page 68 of the annual reports and financial statements, April 2020 to March 2021. Item number 6. To authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of external auditors. Item number 6 on the agenda is, quote, to authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the external auditors, unquote. Section 408 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020 requires that the remuneration of the auditors shall be fixed by the company at the annual general meeting, or manner as the company in general meeting may determine. I hereby move that the directors be and are hereby authorized to fix the remuneration of the auditors. Would a shareholder please rise and second this motion?
I second the motion. Mrs. Bakari Adebisi.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Adebisi Bakari. May I now call on the members to vote on the resolution by poll. I will hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You may now vote. Okay, the session has ended. On the resolution to authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the external auditors, we have 100% of the votes in favor of the resolution, represented in shareholding by 179,013,000 units of shares. We have no votes against and none abstaining. Thank you.
Thank you, registrars. I declare the motion carried unanimously. Item number 7. To elect members of the Statutory Audit Committee. Item number 7 on the agenda is the election of the 3 shareholder members of the Audit Committee. Under Section 404, Sub 3 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, Mr. T.K. Uduniyi, Mr. Ibiyemi S.O. Kolawole, and Mr. Shodende B. Ade, deceased, were duly nominated to serve on the Audit Committee for the 2020-21 financial year. We now have the following names of nominees were received from shareholders. Mr. T.K. Uduniyi, Mr. Ibiyemi S.O. Kolawole, Mrs. Iyola Oluwatoyin Olufunke, and Mr. Ayuba Quadri Yemi. Will those in support of Mr. T.K. Uduniyi please signify by raising their hands? Thank you. Will those in support of Mr. Ibiyemi S.O. Kolawole please signify by raising their hands? Thank you. Will those in support of Mrs. Iyola Oluwatoyin Olufunke please signify by raising their hands? Thank you. Will those in support of Mr. Ayuba Quadri Yemi please signify by raising their hands? By the results, Mr. T.K. Uduniyi, 9 votes. Mr. Ibiyemi S.O. Kolawole, 9 votes. Mr. Ayuba Quadri Yemi, 5 votes. Mrs. Iyola Oluwatoyin Olufunke, 4 votes. The composition, the 3 candidates with highest scores are Mr. T.K. Uduniyi, Mr. Ibiyemi S.O. Kolawole, Mr. Ayuba Quadri Yemi. I hereby declare them duly elected to serve on the Audit Committee for 2021-2022, along with the following non-executive directors: Mr. Olayinka Lawal, Her Majesty Dr. Josephine A. Dieter-Spiff, Item number 8, to approve directors' remuneration. Item number 8 on the agenda is to approve directors' remuneration for 2020-2021. I hereby move that the directors' remuneration for 2020-2021 contained in the accounts at page 68 be approved. Will the shareholder please rise and second this motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise to second this motion. My name is Eric Akinduro.
Thank you, sir. May I now call on members to vote on the resolution by poll? I will hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You may now vote, please. On the resolution to approve the remuneration of directors, we have 100% of the votes in favor of the resolution, represented in shareholding by 180,204,000 units of shares, none abstaining and none voted against the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, registrars. I declare the motion carried unanimously. Item number 9, approval and grant of general mandates to the Board of Directors to engage in transactions with related parties. I hereby move that the directors of the company be and hereby authorized to approve, sign, and or execute other documents as may be necessary to give effect to the above resolutions, including, without limitation, complying with the directives of any regulatory authority, and all acts carried out, steps taken and documents executed or to be executed by the directors of the company in connection with the above resolution, be and are hereby approved and or ratified, as the case may be, to give effect to these resolutions and, where applicable, to file and or register same with the Corporate Affairs Commission. Will a shareholder second by raising his or her right hand? Thank you. May I now call on members to vote on the resolution by poll? I will hand over to the registrars to conduct the poll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We crave your indulgence for just a minute. We need to make a slight adjustment on the slides. Apologies for that slight delay. We needed to make some adjustment. Shall we have the timer up? Okay, you may now vote, please. Okay. Is that, well, because we've had other things that came along the way, we can still take it as it is. Yeah. Yes, please. If you haven't, please vote. Okay. Have we all voted? 100%. Okay. All right. The session has ended. On the resolution for the approval and grant of a general mandate to the Board of Directors to engage in transactions with related parties, we have 100% of the votes in favor of the resolution, represented in shareholding by 179,715,000 units of shares. We have none abstaining and we have none against. Thank you.
Thank you, registrars. I declare the motion carried unanimously. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this year's annual general meeting. On behalf of the board, I thank you for attending this meeting and showing so much. I now declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much. The national anthem. Thank you very much.